Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. We have a number of people joining us. I noticed from UK. We have people joining us from, New Zealand. Great. Texas. Good to have you. We'll wait for a couple more people to join. What I want to talk about today is I'm going to, every day, I'm going to talk about different aspects of this historic lawsuit. Two reasons is one is to show people in many ways that this lawsuit goes at the heart of what it means to be a human being. And it goes at the heart of the modern struggle for freedom that not only affects people in the United States, but affects pretty much everyone throughout the world. So that's what I want to focus on today. I want to talk about the universality of this lawsuit and what it means to every person listening. And then I want to ask all of you to take a particular action that everyone can do. And that's what I want to talk about, because the title of today's talk is Where Government Ends and Where Twitter Begins, Nobody Knows. And that will give you the heart of what's going on globally on many, many issues throughout the world. And I think if we can awaken ourselves to that, we have a huge opportunity to actually explode and expose the next movement that's necessary for human freedom on this planet. And that's what's so potent and important about this lawsuit. And someone said, I feel defeated. No one should feel defeated, right? So what we want people to do is my hope in the next few minutes is to awaken all of you to the historic opportunity we have. Those in power want you to feel defeated. Those in power want you to feel that you as an individual cannot do anything. And they surely do not want people coming up bottoms up and building an independent movement. That is the real movement. So what those in power do is they've created something over here called entertainment, political parties that have this candidate and another candidate, and what some of these candidates will say some good things sometimes to entertain you, okay? But this stuff over here has nothing to do with the reality of a bottoms-up movement, which is the only thing that has always changed the world. The only thing that has always changed the world has been people's movements, working people's movements. And that's why I encourage everyone here. I can't go into the details of this, but we need to understand that you need to take a systems approach to understand the universe, your body, politics. There's a finite set of principles. Every Monday evening, if people go to truthfreedomandhealth.com, I teach that course, and it's called Get Educated or Be Enslaved. So those of you who are interested in the warrior scholar training, go to that. But more importantly, what people need to understand is that training will afford you the opportunity to see the arc of human history and the amazing times when human beings have actually been very successful. And it was when people organized independently, decentrally, independent of political parties, independent of government, and built movements. And I encourage all of you to take advantage of that course, support it for yourself or your family. But right now, this lawsuit that we're on goes at something even deeper. It goes at the essence of what we call truth, freedom, and health, because without freedom, you can't do science to get to truth. Without freedom, you can't, frankly, get to health. So whether it's on the issues of medical freedom, whether it's on the issues of election integrity, whether it's on the issues of food supply, whatever issue you may want to take, what this lawsuit shows is that the government, not only in India, not only in America, not only in every country, UK, every country, has struck a deal with big tech. So where government ends and where Twitter or Facebook or YouTube begins, nobody actually knows anymore. Because the government, as we know, as I shared, that came out in our lawsuit, has a playbook for censorship. Look what it says. This is for election influence operations. They have a terminology that they've created for troublemakers, quote unquote troublemakers, called influence operators. Using this manual and the infrastructure they've created with big tech, it's in black and white. It's no longer quote unquote conspiracy theory. They actually have a methodology and infrastructure to surveillance, blacklist, and monitor those people that they brand as influence operators, people who have influence and can potentially put a different narrative than to the government narrative. And in fact, even the Wall Street Journal 4 days ago, they did a very interesting article. The editorial board of the Wall Street Journal put out a very interesting article. Let me see if I can find it on Facebook and Biden. Okay, and let me see if I can find it. Okay, and this article basically came out, I believe, less than a week ago. Let me see if I can find it. It's from the editorial board, and here it is. Okay, let me bring it up. And it's a very interesting article. I recommend everyone go read it, but they'll put this article out, but they will not cover our lawsuit because it'll probably even expose the Wall Street Journal for what they actually are. So let me bring up this article. So what do you see here? Here's this article in the Wall Street Journal, and look, it's the opinion piece by the editorial board of the entire journal. It basically says the company acts in tandem with the government on speech control. And the article is basically talking about when Biden said he was going to start investigating whether the virus was a man-made virus. Up until then, Facebook would say such things were false or debunk claims. But now Facebook is saying, okay, because the government said it's okay to talk about this, we're also going to change our policy. All right. So what this article shows is that when the government tells Mark Zuckerberg to jump, he jumps. Same with Twitter's Jack Dorsey. And that's the essence of our lawsuit. Our lawsuit is peeling away all the layers of the onions, and it's saying that we no longer have freedom in any part of the world at all, particularly in the United States, because this playbook was developed by the defendants in my case. And this playbook lays out very clearly this ideology. It's like the Communist Manifesto of influence operations. How do you tag an enemy of the state? How do you assess their severity? How do you take care of them? How do you constantly monitor them? So I was thrown off Twitter first time on September 24th. Then following a judge's order, I was back on. And then they threw me off on February 1st. But in both situations, they were monitoring me because I was exposing government malfeasance, which is one of the most protected forms of speech. So how can you help? What can you do? Well, first of all, let's go back to fundamental principles. What everyone can do here is the following. First, you need to begin by recognizing that this lawsuit is not a left or right issue. The right media ain't going to cover it and the left won't, because it's going to expose both of big media. Big media also works with government like big tech. They jump. Tucker will jump when government tells him to. CNN jumps when government will tell them to. Both big media organizations serve the government. You see, in America, we sit here as Americans and we look at China and we look at Russia and we look at other countries and we say, oh, those are fascist third world countries who suppress their citizens. American fascism and American suppression is worse in those countries because in those countries, people actually know their governments are corrupt and suppress them. In America, we've been given this illusion through quote unquote democracy. In fact, this document says defending digital democracy. Okay. It's very Orwellian. So what can we do? Well, number one, we need to leverage this lawsuit and create a broad movement. So when I ask people to give $1 at winbackfreedom.com, it's to basically tell you that we need to use this historic opportunity to get as many people waking up and saying, hey, wait a minute. We have an important lawsuit here, which is going at the heart of free speech, because without freedom, you're not going to get to truth or you're not going to get to health. So that's the first thing we need people to do, is let everyone know about winbackfreedom.com. And how can you do that? Well, everyone listening, you become the media. You become a journalist. You go write about this. You go write about this talk I'm giving. Go back and look at the other videos. We need citizens journalists. When the founders created the Constitution, and the First Amendment, they never envisioned a New York Times. They never envisioned a Facebook. They envisioned every citizen being the press. Freedom of the press meant all of us were allowed to operate the press. And that's what we need to do. We need to walk the walk now. I've walked it this far. I need everyone's support because we need to raise a war chest right now to do depositions, discovery, bring in some lawyers. I'm still going to be involved in this. It's called hybrid representation. I'm not going to give that up. So that's what I need. It's very simple. Get everyone to give $1 to win back freedom. Winbackfreedom.com, $1. And by the way, if you want to donate more, I actually give you courses and training. Okay. All right. That's what we need people to do. And then all of you become citizen journalists. Write a Facebook post on it. Do a tweet on it. Go above ground, which is their social media. Do a podcast. I don't care if you have 10 followers, 1,000 followers, 100,000. Learn how to articulate this. Wake up and become active citizens. That's what we need. So that's what I ask of you. And we have a historic opportunity. There's nothing to be depressed about here. We have, whether you're in India, look, we saw what occurred with Twitter and the Indian government. The political forces of the entrenched Congress party are the ones who call Twitter to try to tell them to flag something that was put out by the health minister, right? Who's the opposing party? Whatever the entrenched political forces are, they are the royalty. And that's why on the website that we have, the graphic that I have, that everyone, I want to walk through this graphic. The graphic that I created there is, and if you look at this graphic, it's a very cool graphic because what it says is that, and if you look here, you have this David versus Goliath. Here's a Goliath of royalty, the elites, using, their big universities, Harvard, Stanford, the Belfer Institute, through these state officials who launder censorship. These two organizations are the two, one of them is a defendant. They used big tech. You see, big tech is essentially their stomping machine, but the head of this machine is the royalty, the elites. And this is what we need to understand. And our lawsuit comes at a point in history where we are fighting for the history of all of those people who shed their blood and fought for freedom. That's what this lawsuit is about. So I want all of you to not get depressed. Think of this as an awesome opportunity. Become your own citizens journalists. Go tell your neighbors about this. I don't care if they're left or right. We can disagree as Americans or as citizens of the world. But when it comes to freedom, what we have is we have the governments of the world through the trusted partnership with social media companies can censor you. And the reason I call it laundering censorship is they can say, oh, we didn't censor you. They did it, a private company. You see how this insidiousness works? The government has a hotline. That's what this shows, the Twitter partnership. And they can censor private citizens if you critique them. And through that censorship, they launder the censorship. They can say, oh, we didn't throw Shiva off. Twitter did. No, you did. And you laundered your censorship. So these private actors no longer have First Amendment protection because the government cannot violate the First Amendment, particularly the United States. And this is an opportunity to fight for citizens all over the world. So I encourage all of you, wherever you are, if you're in India, give, I think it's 70 rupees, right? Which is $1. Everyone should support this lawsuit, and it's part of building the movement for truth, freedom, and health. Truth, freedom, and health. Freedom is in the middle of it. Without freedom, we can't do science to get to truth. Without freedom, we can't fight for our health. And when you don't have your health, you don't have the strength to fight for truth or freedom. These are very powerfully integrated. But we have to fight for freedom, and that's what this is about. So anyway, I look forward to all your, if you want to email me at vashiva@vashiva.com. But everyone, become a citizens journalist. Everyone, let everyone know about this lawsuit. And if you know other good independent YouTubers and you want me to do an interview with them, email me at vashiva@vashiva.com. Thank you, everyone. This was a short one. I have to get ready for a number of other things on this lawsuit. But I thank you all and be well. It's time for everyone here listening to become active citizens. Get the word out. Become the press. become citizens journalists. Donate $1. Tell all your friends you know to go to winbackfreedom.com and donate $1. We need to have millions giving $1. That's a movement. This is an opportunity to build a global US global movement against fascism. Thank you, everyone. Be well, be the light.